Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's amazing guest, I know I say that all the time, but I really loved him, is Shaun Lake, who has a company, BUBS Naturals, and we talk all about sports, collagen, MCT, and all of that. And I can't wait for you to meet him. So let's go and say hello to Shaun. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhite, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a Bioenergetics Practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life. Hey, Shaun, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm happy to have you. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, no problem. So my name is Shaun. I'm the co-founder of BUBS Naturals. We have a natural collagen protein, Mct oil powder line. And as no doubt a lot of your listeners know, both of these products line up very well with the ketogenic diet. I used to be a professional snowboarder about 2 lifetimes ago, and I'm now married, father of 2. I've got a 3 and a 5-year-old at home, and I'm the very definition of the old dad. So I started the family when I was 45. I'm a fresh 50, and so here we are.
Cool. You're a snowboarder. Okay, so you live in SoCal. Where did you snowboard?
So I actually grew up in a little town in Massachusetts called Winchester. So it's just outside of Boston. And I grew up there with my best friend, this guy named Glenn Bub Doherty, who, since I just said the name BUBS Naturals, is probably going to come back into the conversation a few times. But during high school, I was the guy who figured that team sports weren't really my thing. And I was always kind of like leaning towards more individual activities. And I fell in love with skateboarding. Skateboarding led to snowboarding. And I just was super passionate about, going out and having adventures and going to the mountains. And I just was really drawn to it. So when all my friends went to college, I went to college. And then I was the first one to drop out of college. I said, all right, I got to go explore the mountains. I have to go see what's out there. So Glenn and I both dropped out of college and we moved to the mountains of Utah. You can just imagine the conversation with my mom and dad to explain this to them, that I was going to leave college and go chase a dream of becoming a professional snowboarder. And so my dad famously said, well, the world needs ditch diggers too. And next thing you know, I'm out, washing dishes and snowboarding every day and learning the craft and living in the mountains and having a great time.
Wow. And you actually became professional?
I did. It's a combination of kind of luck in life, but also you make your luck. So I moved to a really good mountain called Snowbird in Utah. And Snowbird at the time was, known for its very extreme terrain. It still is today. And you really cut your teeth on some challenging conditions, and it helps sharpen you and you get a little bit better. And I got lucky. I met, a couple owners of some companies. I did a couple of contests, and all at the amateur level. And I ended up getting, a free snowboard here, then a free outfit, some goggles. And then that turned into more free stuff and then a travel budget. And then the next thing you know, I was getting paid to ride snowboards. It was awesome.
Oh, cool. How long did you do that for?
I did it on and off for about 5 years. So it was sort of like you slug it out in the minor leagues. And then I really kind of made it by the time I was about 24. And then I ran that till I was about 29. When I turned 25, I decided to go back to college and reapply my time with a degree. I knew I couldn't snowboard forever. So I was making my money snowboarding, and then I was pouring it into college tuition because I'm sure, as you know, your parents don't like to reinvest in college the second time. First ride was on them. Second one was on me. So it was really interesting because I would go to school summer semester and fall semester, and then I would ride snowboards all winter, and then I'd go back and reapply myself at school. So it was a unique way of balancing a fun career snowboarding and knocking out that degree.
Oh, that's really cool though. Actually, it's really wise to do it that way, So, and then what'd you do? So, I mean, because you're here almost 30, now 50, 20-year gap.
So I thought, and this is, I'm going to go back to the Glenn part. So I had this partner in crime through this whole adventure through high school and then moving out to the mountains. And that was my buddy, Glenn. So Glenn, when we were turning 25, we had this conversation, like we're looking around us and we see all of our friends. We're like, we know a lot of guys in their 30s and their 40s, and they still live at the mountain and they still live that lifestyle. And we didn't envision that for ourselves. And that's why I chose to go back to school. And Glenn had kind of said, well, I set out to become a professional skier while you were doing the snowboard thing, Shaun, and it didn't happen. So I think my next challenge in life is that I'm going to join the Navy and become a Navy SEAL. Not a normal career path for a guy who'd been ski bumming for 5 years and working at the resorts and, doing all the crazy life adventures that we were having, but that's what he wanted to do. So when he took off and did that, I actually decided, well, I'm going to get my degree in political science. I'm going to join the State Department. And I think from there, I'll be able to travel the world, because that was kind of one of Glenn's, motivations, was challenge myself, see what I'm made of. Oh, and travel the world on the government's dime as a Navy SEAL. And I thought, well, I'll do that in a much more civilian way. I'll do it through the State Department. But when I graduated from college, I was turning 30. I'm the 30-year-old college graduate. And I had retired from snowboarding. I'd walked away from my endorsements. And I said, okay, well, what does the next step look like? And I had about 9 months before I could take the civil service exam, which would have been my entry into working at the State Department and doing those things. So while I was in this in-between phase, I got approached by Red Bull, the energy drink company. And then I got approached by Burton Snowboards, and they were both hiring for these marketing positions, these team manager positions. I said, oh, well, I'm a snowboarder. Burton is the number one company in snowboarding. So they ended up hiring me to become the North American team manager, and specifically to move to Encinitas, California, where I live today, and become the team manager of a young kid named Shaun White.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sure a lot of people listen to that, like, wait, is that kid who won like a whole bunch of gold medals snowboarding? So I got to work with Shaun for a while before the Olympics, like kind of like his teenage years. Like I would literally be flying all around these different contests with Shaun and making sure he did his homework before we go to half pipe practice.
You were his other mom, huh?
I worked very closely with his mom to make sure that homework assignments got turned in. Yes. And it was a funny chapter because of course he's a great guy, and he's blossomed into this this epic star that has transcended snowboarding. It was really cool to be able to work with him very closely during that chapter, and a very unique career path for myself, because I never envisioned myself working in action sports. But I worked with Burton. Then I rolled from Burton into working with ESPN. I worked with the X Games franchise for a couple of years, doing a lot of their industry liaison stuff. And then I worked with Tony Hawk. I managed one of his secret skate park tours. So, like obviously a household name in skateboarding. And then I was always in the kind of sideways sport realm. And then I worked for 6 years for Quicksilver, and I was the marketing director over at DC Shoes, which was one of their brands, managing the snowboard and the surf and the BMX and the motocross guys. So I've just kind of always been in that culture, in that space. And all this time, of course, that best friend of mine is touring, the whole world as a Navy SEAL. But he was living in Coronado. So like we got the band back together, and we always got to hang out. When he was home from deployments, we would all get together and just, it was like normal life. Fast forward a couple of years, and while I'm working at DC Shoes, Glenn ends up moving up to Encinitas. Next thing you know, two guys are getting ready to turn 40 are roommates again, and running around Encinitas and really kind of like diving in super deep into fitness, because you can't be best friends with a Navy SEAL without having him kind of really make sure you're staying fit. And I really attribute a lot of my sort of like 30s into 40s fitness journey back to my time spent with Glenn. And then so while he was, he got out of the Navy, we were roommates. He was contracting, doing private security work while I was having this awesome career in action sports. And he would deploy into various parts of the world doing private security for the Central Intelligence Agency. So he basically parlayed his experience in the Navy into doing this very kind of high risk security work for the CIA. And he would go to Beirut or Mexico, or, he'd be all over the place. And then in the fall of 2012, he was stationed in Tripoli. So it was right after Gaddafi had been kicked out, or, the whole revolution in Libya. And he was one of the responders to the terrorist attacks on 9/11. So you might remember the Benghazi terrorist attacks in 2012. There was like a movie, 13 Hours, made about it. There were congressional hearings and just a whole bunch of stink about that attack, and 4 Americans were killed. One of them was my roommate. So my career path, which had been very much youth lifestyle, action sports, fun loving, with a lot of fitness sprinklings on the side, suddenly became really different, because I was the executor of Glenn's estate. I was his listed next of kin. And I had this like very real kind of shift in focus and priorities. And celebrating Glenn's legacy became a job. It became a thing to do, and a responsibility, as his executor, that I took very seriously. And of course, it was under a very big national spotlight. Like I'd never been under that kind of attention before. But Glenn was this bigger than life, larger than life personality. Like celebrating him was what his family wanted to do. All of our friends wanted to do. A lot of Glenn's Navy SEAL buddies are my buddies. So, we talked a lot during those first couple of months about how do you keep Glenn's memory at the table? And the thing that was thought of, Glenn's sister thought it up, was, well, let's start a foundation. Let's pay it forward. That's what Glenn would do. Like Glenn was always helping others. So let's start a foundation and really help do that for others. Like let's help other Navy SEALs and special operators transition out of active duty to civilian life through scholarship. Like let's fill gaps in the GI Bill, and let's show them they don't have to fall into contracting, which is what Glenn did. And Glenn was really good at his job, but it's a really dangerous job. So let's help these guys out. And that felt right. Like that felt like the right thing to do to celebrate Glenn. So we did. And, it was a mom and pop charity. I had to learn the whole 501c3 space. I was one of the board of directors. We're voted on scholars every year, and it really felt right. But at the same time, it was a neat way to keep Glenn's memory alive. So fast forward a couple more years, I am still in the consulting space doing marketing work, and my wife buys me a jar of collagen protein. And this is now, I'm jumping forward now a couple of years to 2017. And she buys me a jar of collagen. She says, listen, you're not getting any younger, and we're starting a family, and you need this stuff. And quite literally, I'm like, okay. Now my wife's a couple years younger than I am. Again, we have a 3 and a 5-year-old. So, and I'm 50. So, she's in her mid 30s, and
Oh, a couple years.
she's 36. She's 14. There's a 14-year age gap. And I joke about this because I was never looking to, like, we just met and fell in love. And the age gap thing, we're like, whoa, this is a really big deal. This is a lot of years. I mean, I'll give you a cultural reference because they're always funny to us. I wanted her to watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High as a dating movie. She wanted me to watch Clueless.
I'm more your age than hers. I'm 55. So yeah,
You're with me. You're on my side here. Okay.
I'm older than you.
So she says that. She says, listen, I think you should take collagen. It's going to be great for your joint health. And that was the number one thing that I was struggling with was, I was 45 at the time. I had a lot of wear and tear on my body. And I had just beat up from, we ran Boston Marathon together. I'd been doing CrossFit for the better part of a decade. And just kind of high intensity, moving around, snowboarding, surfing, all the stuff. We stay very, very active. And the commitment to have children, I believe, is also a commitment to taking care of yourself and being the best parent you can be, not just mentally, but physically. And they're very well connected. I think we can all agree on that. So I started taking it. And I'm a supplement skeptic. I'm the guy who says none of this stuff works. Really? I didn't take anything. I had tried everything. I'd been like, oh, creatine, I'll try that. I didn't get any bigger. Whey protein, my muscles aren't, doing anything. BCAAs, just tried it all. And I just never really felt that they did much. And I didn't care. Like, I would sort of follow Glenn's lead when it came to taking supplementation. If he said, hey, we're going to go lift heavy weights, take the creatine, I'd be like, okay. Hey, we're going to go on a long run, grab this hydration formula. Okay. And I would learn about it just through that experience, but nothing really took. So I try the collagen and I put it in my coffee every morning, just throw a scoop in there. And about 2 weeks in, I'm following this direction because I'm ready to naysay this stuff. And about 2 weeks in, my fingernails are growing like crazy. And as a guy, you notice that, like, you just like wear the clippers, like, this is irritating. Like, I don't look at getting, manicure, pedicure. It's more like, wear the clippers. I got to trim my nails again. And then 2 weeks later, I needed a haircut. And Tracy, I had just gotten a haircut. So I'm like, this is really weird. I just did these two things, and those benefits are written on the side of the jar here. So something's happening. So I stayed curious, and then I bought a second jar. And then the second month, about maybe 6-7 weeks in, almost 2 months in, I got out of bed one day, and we had this long flight cross country with our 1-year-old, and we packed up, got to the airport, flew cross country. And we get off the plane, and I'm like grabbing all the stuff. And, when you've got a 1-year-old, there's stuff. You're carrying a lot of stuff. And I'm getting off the plane, and I'm like, oh my God, nothing hurts. Like, nothing hurts. And Heather, my wife's like, well, that's nice, dear. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, my knees aren't seized up from sitting in a small chair on the airplane for 5.5 hours. Like, I feel great. And that was it. The journey continued from there. I started diving into what collagen was, how it could make a difference, like how simple it was. And the deeper I dove into it, the more of a fan I became of the product. Now, I had no intentions of being a 45-year-old father of one with another kid on the way turned entrepreneur. That was never in the cards. However, I have a very persuasive business partner, and he's a very sharp guy named TJ Ferreira. And TJ came over to the house one day. He was a lifting buddy, and we had shared a couple of work projects together. So we had worked well together, and that part of the, of knowing him was fantastic. Like, we'd been in the trenches on a couple of work projects. So he comes over to the house, and he sees the jar of collagen. And I raved to him about what I just said to you. I'm like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. I feel so good. And he just says, oh, well, let's start a company. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, let's start a company right now while I've got a, crying baby in the other room. Sure. What does that look like? And we both said at the exact same time, and this is like that crazy synergistic moment. Well, whatever we do, we have to do something cool for charity. And a little light bulb just clicked. It just went off in my head. And I said, well, I know the charity. It's got to be Glenn's charity. And Glenn's call sign in the Navy was Bub. So we'll name the company BUBS Naturals as a tribute to Glenn and his way of life. He was this guy that stood for self-improvement. Collagen is all about self-improvement. I mean, we'll talk more about the collagen-y stuff in a minute, but like it's all about self-improvement. And Glenn was always helping others. Like that was his DNA. So we'll give 10% of all of our profits to his charity, to charitable causes. And we kind of looked at each other and we're like, wow, this feels right. Let's call his family. Let's call some of his Navy SEAL buddies. Let's call everyone and let's see what they think. And the general consensus came back and it was, Glenn would kick your ass if you didn't do this. So you better do it. And it was a crazy leap of faith. And I do believe in those leaps, and it just, everything aligned and felt right. And so I said, well, let's see what we can do here. Let's learn this space. And so we set out to discover collagen. We set out to make a difference in collagen. There's a lot of collagen out there. Mm-hmm. How do we make it better? How do we improve on something that I just bought off the shelf and it worked for me, but I knew that we could elevate that experience, and that became the journey. And now here we are 4 years later, and I will take the Pepsi challenge on flavor, solubility. We're the only brand out there that is NSF certified for sport for 100% of our collagen. That allows us to work with professional sports teams, Olympic athletes. So we're in over half the locker rooms in Major League Baseball, NFL football. It's been awesome. And we're one of 2 brands that is Whole30 approved. So Melissa Urban and the Whole30 approved team anointed us for our collagen protein. And then we introduced a second product, which is an MCT oil. And we took the idea of the MCT oil, but we wanted one that you could use as a powder. I wanted a really great tasting non-dairy creamer. And I didn't like acacia fiber. I didn't care for cornstarch or a lot of these limited ones. I wanted a keto, paleo-friendly product. And so we landed on that. We use a native tapioca starch with a coconut oil base, so virgin pressed coconut oil. It leaves that just a little hint of coconut flavor. You've got some on the way.
Thank you.
And it was a really neat sort of creamer and this extra and the collagen that I place in my coffee. So we sort of created this great morning routine that we call the BUBS brew. And
love that.
Got it going.
So tell me what makes your collagen stand out from all the others, because you know how it is, like people they slap a keto label, or they just say, oh, like, this collagen, take this. Why does yours stand out? What's the difference?
So this is a great question. There's no shortage of collagen out there. And I think anyone who has shopped on Amazon, you can get inundated with, there's 50 brands on Amazon alone. You go to your local Whole Foods or Sprouts Market or wherever you live, you're going to find a lot of them. The sourcing is the most important part. Where are you buying your collagen from? So we buy ours from the very southern tip of Brazil and Uruguay. So what does that mean? That means it's an agrarian farm system, grass-fed, pasture-raised. These aren't feedlots. This is from nature. That's a super important component for us as a manufacturer. Second thing that is important for us is that is thousands of miles away from the Amazon rainforest. There's been a lot of conflict issues with deforestation happening in the Amazon rainforest. If you care about that issue and you look at where you're buying your collagen from, that should jump out at you, because a lot of that deforestation is happening in the name of the cattle industry, which ends up feeding into the production of collagen.
Mm.
So after those environmental concerns were a table stake, the next one is flavor. Collagen at a low grade does not taste good. Unflavored collagen can taste a little gamey. So we wanted to solve for flavor. The second thing is solubility. It clumps. Collagen is quite literally a glue, right? Like it's the glue that holds you together. It's great for tighter skin and fuller hair and stronger nails. And I personally love it for muscle recovery and joint health and gut health. So all of these, and bone density, which is often overlooked, but really shouldn't be. Collagen can provide for all of those things. Those are all your connective tissues. Well, if you pour it into a glass of ice cold water, a poor solubility product is just going to clump up and glue up and turn into this gelatin, and it's not going to work well.
Yeah.
So flavor and solubility were next on the list for us. Solve for those, like make sure we have the best solubility going. You pour our product into a cup of coffee, it goes right in. It's heat tolerant, so you don't lose that amino acid profile. And the amino acid profile is the last thing. People rarely read the back of the supplement facts panels and like really look at a deep dive on exactly what the amino acid count is in a product. Look at ours and then look at some of the competition. And those key amino acids, we are loaded in them because we have a clean, well-produced product. Well, if you've got a bunch of glycine in the product, it's going to help with production of synovial fluid. So we'll have more glycine in ours than the competition's. And so it's important to look at the amino acid profiles, because that will help you know just how much theanine you're getting, how much of these great amino acids are out there that you want to have access to. And that's a little on the nerdy side, but I would start with some table stakes. Like, hey, is the brand charitable? I love that. That's why we got into this business. We're in an incredibly uncharitable space. Most collagens are just marketed around the world as, hair, skin, nails, beauty, beauty, beauty. And it's very much vanity metrics, and that's okay. We like to talk more about living a full life, and being charitable is a big part of that. And I believe the functionality of the protein is a huge part of that. Like, your audience is going to do better if they're supplementing and taking the right products. They're going to be able to work out more, have more energy, lose weight, like engage in that 180, and that's an awesome way to approach life. And that's really what's a big driver behind BUBS.
Yeah, I think that's important. And like my thing is aging stronger, right? So clearly a really good quality collagen will help with that. One of my ways that I have my clients actually drink it is adding it into the yogi caramel tea at night as like their dessert beverage. And then that way they don't break their fast in the morning. Okay. Cause I want them to stay fasted until lunch, but then it's like this beautiful frothy dessert,
Yeah.
that so do you have a sweetener in yours, or is it just a plain flavor?
One ingredient, just the collagen.
Cool.
It's as clean can be. And that's, again, I believe people can sort of add into things as they like. So we are in discussions about doing a vanilla collagen. That would have a little sprinkle of MCT in it for creaminess and for a little bit of addition. But the idea of doing those in the most natural lens is really the approach that we have as a brand. So the core product for us is the collagen by itself. So you don't need anything else. A truly unflavored collagen will work into that tea, and it won't disrupt it. And if it doesn't disrupt it, you're going to be that much more apt to add it into your daily life. That's the goal.
So many vanilla flavorings come from a really disgusting component in nature that I don't even want to mention, but like that's the thing. So help me understand one thing. Okay. So what is the difference? I guess it would be on the amino acid profile from a collagen protein powder to I don't do whey because it gives me a stomach ache, but like I use a beef protein powder that I make my shakes with. What is the difference there? Because I know that you need the beef one for your muscles, and then you need the collagen one for your joints, hair, skin,
Yep.
nails, gut
Yep.
microbiome.
They consider them like a complement to each other. So I'm a big fan of plant-based proteins. My stomach has always been funky with whey. I don't have a dairy intolerance, oddly enough, but like just whey proteins have always curdled. And I've been since I have broken the barrier of being a supplement skeptic, I have dove in and have really wanted to learn more about the space. And of course, what works for me personally, my blood type, all of those types of things. So, and obviously, as we age up a little bit, protein intake is really, really important. Muscles do atrophy. You got to use it or lose it. And the intake on the nutrition side is just paramount. When you're 20, you can eat a tire and you're going to be fine. When you're 40, you got to really focus on it. And when you're 50, you got to really, stay tuned in on the nutrition side. So your meat-based protein is going to have a complete amino acid profile. So it is going to have tryptophan in there. Tryptophan is missing from collagen. So collagen will never be about muscle growth. You'll never get huge on collagen. Collagen is there as your repair.
Right.
Consider it like it's going to do wonders for your joints because it's loaded with glycine, but your meat protein's not. Your meat protein has a rounded amino acid profile that will help with the muscle build and the muscle recovery, but it's not going to help your hair, skin, and nails in nearly the same way. I mean, you would have to eat jars of it. So it's really just a difference in how those amino acids are, how many you've got in each serving. So what I recommend, and this is how I ingest, is I like putting my collagen in my coffee. It's unflavored. I like coffee, 1 cup in the morning. My intermittent fast is, you would not consider authentic probably, because I also put the MCT oil powder in there as well. And I am satiated for hours. When I do eat, it's usually a smoothie. And that's where I would put 20 grams or 25 grams of, I use a plant-based protein. That's going to be my muscle repair and my muscle build component. But I know that plant-based protein just doesn't have the same amino acids in it. So the two different sources together, you're winning. And that could be a whey protein, casein, like it depends what your preferred protein source is, whatever works for you.
Yeah, I use this. It's Equip Foods makes it, but it has 3 ingredients: the grass-fed beef protein, cocoa powder, and stevia, and that's it.
Yep.
So it's the cleanest I've found. But I only usually have like 1 shake a day. So,
yep.
Okay. So talk to me about, why do you like the MCT oil powder versus just the oil? And is it a C8, C10 combo, or what's in it?
Yep. So it's a 70-30 blend, C8 to C10. And the reason, one, I am the guy, and what I've found is that this seems to be fairly common. I don't need a lot of MCT oil to do the job. So we have between 5 and 6 grams of oil in a scoop. So it's, it's a little like 50-60% oil to powder ratio. What I have found in the oil by itself is it tastes like an oil slick. Quite frankly, it's unappealing. It doesn't bring any kind of satiating flavor profile to my coffee. It takes away from it. I love my coffee. My coffee is like a ritual in the morning. Like I just love a good cup of coffee. And I'm not a coffee snob, but I do love a good cup. The MCT oil in a powder has, like the way we formulated it, has just the slightest hint of coconut behind it. And normally an MCT oil by itself, that flavor is completely stripped out of the oil. You get the healthy fat benefits, but it comes at a consequence. And again, I'm a big flavor person. You are more likely to adapt a habit, a healthy habit, if it tastes good. So oils are messy. You can't transport oils. So that was the number one strike against the oils. Like if I'm traveling and I'm going snowboarding places, I don't want to put it in a Ziploc bag and have it leak into my other belongings. And it's a messy pain in the ass. Pardon my French. But then the powders, one, you do run the risk of getting pulled over by TSA pre-check if you maybe have a bag full of white powder on your hands. But so we make them in a travel packet, which is a lot friendlier. But that was super important too, was, hey, take this MCT and make it flavorful. So tapioca starch, it's diet friendly. It's like this benign, sad little root vegetable like cassava that, you can work it with paleo diets, you can work it with keto friendly diets and the healthy fats in the oil. And you just have those two ingredients together, oil sprayed into powder, go. It's not messy, it's creamy, and it looks creamy. So when you ever drank coffee with a heavy cream, it has that sort of a nice visual look to it. And when you take a sip, it's a fuller mouthfeel. Those were things I really wanted to get out of the product. And with 5 gram serving, I am humming. And most everyone I talk to is the same way. They're like, yep, I only need 1 scoop. And the mental clarity kicks in, like the mental focus, and the energy just goes for hours. And that has been, I mean, maybe I'm a lightweight. Our gym trainer, this gal Zia, she's like 3 or 4 scoops a day, and I don't know how she does it. I'm horrified by that idea.
So do you still do CrossFit?
I do. It's funny, gosh, I'm 13 years in, and I'm kind of a kitchen sink of fitness. So I kind of like the idea of always trying new things. And, when I got done snowboarding, I fell in love with surfing. When I stopped mountain biking, I started road biking because I didn't live in the mountains anymore. And now I'm falling back into mountain biking again. And so I've always enjoyed a lot of difference in fitness. I've done CrossFit as the most consistent thing, but I'll leave CrossFit if there's surf, and I'll just go and paddle for a couple hours, and that will be great exercise. My newest guilty pleasure, my wife bought a Peloton.
Oh God.
Look, I hate to say it, but like, it's kind of awesome. Like, they have gamified fitness, and I'm a sucker for that. Like, you tell me that, look at Tracy, if you and I are working out together and you're 5 reps ahead of me, or you're running faster than I am, it's a carrot. Like, I want to catch up. I want to push myself. And I love that about group fitness environments, that you kind of pull from the energy of those around you.
Yeah.
I will be the first one to like smack talk Peloton, but I do that knowing that every time I log into a class, there's all these anonymous people out there on the screen, and I want to beat all of them.
Oh, how funny.
And it just sort of gamifies it. It gives you that extra nudge to inch forward. And it's a funny thing that they have captured. And I mean, I got to give them credit there. I never would have bought the bike. My wife bought it, and I got to give it to her. I'm like, okay.
Well, I guess for winter, if it's raining and the trails are closed, you need an alternative, right? Like, we live across the street from a mountain. So it's literally like we can see a trail from our front door, Yeah. So my husband mountain bikes every day. I usually go like once or twice a week, and I hike and I do CrossFit. What's your favorite lift?
So power clean to me, and taking that from ground to overhead, you just cover so much room. I've got okay mobility for snatching, but I'm just weak. So like, call it the trust tree. Like, I can't throw too much overhead. I've always admired that lift, but I'll take more steps to get the weight properly overhead.
Yeah.
So you've been in CrossFit for a long time?
So I used to teach at our local gym for 10 years. That's a combo hybrid YMCA. Like, the city made this really nice fitness facility, and I taught everything from yoga to boot camp. Awesome. And then with COVID, it shut down completely. And I found a little CrossFit that was a little under the radar. That the guy is like a major patriot, and he wasn't going to put up with any BS. And so I'm like, oh, he's my guy. And
we could have a whole conversation about that.
Let's. Yes. God, I have no more patience anymore for this. I mean, you're like me living in California. I mean, it is unbelievable, what we're dealing with here. And from the beginning, I've been just talking about immunity and what do we do to be stronger? And you're way more likely to get cancer. So, I mean, yeah. So
The
anyway,
opportunity to talk about self-improvement and nutrition and fitness during the last 18 months is the biggest miss in some ways. Don't need to talk about lockdowns and measurables. It's just the opportunity for that self-improvement and like dial up your nutrition, dial up your fitness. Like I saw it for like a brief second on the news and I was like, oh my God, people are going to really talk about investing in health. And it just went away.
yeah. Like my alarm guy was talking to me today and he's like, are you guys all healthy? I said, yeah, we're totally healthy. He's like, well, this thing's a real deal. I said, yeah, I know. I said, but all of a sudden everybody cares about their health when they didn't,
Yeah.
forever eating. I remember when this thing started, rice, or wait, was it like Lucky Charms, one of those kids cereals had on the label immune boosting. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like sugar is the worst thing you can do, And then
It's
stress. You know what I learned, Shaun? I didn't know this. I thought was super cool. Do you know that if you were to have gotten like a kidney transplant or some sort of an organ transplant, that they give you a drug that increases your cortisol? Because with higher cortisol, your immune system shuts down and you don't risk rejecting that organ. Right? So your immune system goes down with cortisol. And everybody right now has been living with a year and a half worth of high stress for one reason or another, which means their immune system goes in the toilet. And isn't that interesting?
Yep. The suppression thing is very, very real, right? And you also, I'll pull from one of your more recent podcasts. You had a doctor on talking about gut health, and he was talking about living in a sympathetic response instead of parasympathetic, and just the idea of being redlined with information and stress the moment you wake your eyes. Like the moment your eyes pop open, you go, okay, here I am on the next day of my life, and boom, hammer, 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 hammer. And what is that doing to everything that you're trying to build here? I found that to be very, very interesting and an amazing opportunity for everyone, your listeners and beyond, to go, maybe I don't need to grab my phone first thing in the morning. Maybe I should use an old school alarm instead of this device right next to the bed that could buzz at 2 a.m. and I'm going to look at it. Maybe I can go back to reading paper books instead of a screen and that blue light, which we just don't know enough about, but we have more and more exposure to it every single day. And there's just an opportunity to unlock a lot of dialogue. But I'm not done talking about CrossFit. So you found this gym and you started coaching there?
No. I'm not even close to a coach. I have a shoulder thing. So there's a lot of stuff I can't do. I'm not a coach there, but I just go 4 days a week and awesome. I love it. I'm the oldest pretty much. Like I'm the oldest of my class, like, my 7 a.m. class, but, I can do some moves really well and others I struggle with. Like I freaking love the deadlift. I mean, like that's my move.
That's awesome. That's the foundation, right? Like that's the lift. You're picking something safely off the ground. That's what I love about the idea of CrossFit it's the functionality behind it. Like if I'm going to lift my child up into my arms, like I'm power cleaning her. And if I were going to giggle and play, you're just going overhead. But doing those things safely and creating good movement patterns it's awesome. And it applies to so much that we do in our regular life. It's one of the things I'm attracted to it. Being on the clock. I mean, again, that competitive nature or that group kind of tribe-like mentality that you get in the class is so infectious and so authentic. And it gets genuine effort. And man, what more can you ask for? The person next to you is putting out max effort. It's inspiring.
Oh yeah. And we encourage each other. And it's like you said, it's a tribe. I mean, I have a whole new friend group that we go socialize and, I love it. And I'm so thankful that I found a leader of a gym that is independent and strong and loyal, and like I adore him. I mean, he's like such a good guy, and all the people there.
And when you think about that, like those qualities in people, like you find that at those centers, you find that in those environments, and this becomes your people. Like, you know, that's where you draw inspiration from. And it just, you know, if you're around good, like-minded people, like you just level up, and it's neat to see. The gym owner the CrossFit gym that I go to, it's called Counterculture down here in Encinitas. And the owner, Zia, when the pandemic hit, you know, she saw all the red tape and regulations hit, and she was so on it. She said, oh, well, you know, these wellness centers don't seem to be shutting down. I feel like I'm a wellness center. So she went to the city of Encinitas, applied for wellness center license status, got it approved. She never shut down the whole time. It was so badass. I was like, well done. Way to navigate those waters.
Thinking outside the box. That is amazing. Yeah. So, one of the things I had this idea of, you know, you were talking about humanitarian and your charity and everything. And I started a 501c3, I don't know, maybe a year ago. It's called Healthy Hope. And there's like this whole humanitarian movement that's coming soon. I don't know if you've heard anything about it, but it's coming soon. And one of my projects I want to do is one of my friends has the trademark Chick Fit. And I was like, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing to open up like small little women's only boxes to encourage women and help them slowly, incrementally get stronger? You know, because I feel like it's easier to build a strong body than it is to make a strong mind, but empowering these women to conquer anything and everything and stand strong and firm. In a lot of other countries, women aren't respected. And so I feel like this will give them that confidence and a voice, you know?
Hands down. You know, it's an interesting idea. I like to think of CrossFit boxes as pretty much being gender neutral. Everyone comes in, egos checked, work done. And it doesn't matter what the weight is on the bar. It doesn't matter, like, just everyone works. Everyone celebrates afterwards, and everyone, you know, it's a high five. And again, that community is, you know, is pulled together from that. But you don't always look at it and go like, hey, like, there are some obstacles to walking in that door. There are some hurdles that happen prior to, you know, being able to take that leap. CrossFit's intimidating. Engaging in fitness is intimidating. I mean, I hear that as much from any of my guy friends who would say, oh, I got to get fit before I go to the gym. Yeah. I mean, no. Just go to the gym, take those first steps. And there's this idea that there's a psychological barrier to making that step. And, you know, and it's happening here. Whereas, you know, really what they want to work on is here, and they feed each other, like the body and the mind, you know, they got to work in concert. I think that's an awesome idea. And I want to hear more about it. Well, we're email buddies now. Yeah. So. And I have an idea for you actually of a product that I'll tell you when we're done recording. You hear that, listeners? You don't get any of that. This is secret sauce stuff for the future. Yeah, no, I see a need big time in our marketplace, and I'm not a manufacturer, so I'm not going to take it, but I would really like to share that with you. So I look forward to it. I have a 4:00, so I need to like wrap this up, but where can people find you, Shaun? Oh, no problem. So if you're into the Instagram and Facebook, we are just at BUBS Naturals, BUBS Naturals. So just BUBS Naturals. And then our website, bubsnaturals.com. Amazon, of course, everyone loves Amazon Prime. We're actually Amazon's choice as well on the collagen side. So you can shop us there and take a look at the brand and learn more about us. And come learn about who Glenn was, who Bub was, and kind of like the inspiration behind what we do and why we do it. Can they shop on your website? Yes. Yeah. That's the easiest thing to do, is just come to our site and you'll see all of our products laid out there. You know, the collagen proteins, the MCT oil powder. We have apple cider vinegar now in a gummy. Those are very, very tasty. However, they will break if you're going full ketosis. I will warn you off that. There's 2 grams of sugar in there, and that's going to be a no-no.
I won't break it. Okay. But I do want to encourage all you listeners, please don't shop on Amazon. Go and support our small local businesses instead of these massive conglomerates, because they eat a ton of profit, and it is hard to make a profit at certain times in different economies. And I just want to encourage everyone to always, when possible, shop from the little guys so that they don't have to give Amazon half their profit.
Hey, thank you, because I didn't want to be the one to go out and say, because I know everyone have their shopping preferences. Our website is really where we do, the lion's share. We set out to do this business to make a difference, and we do it primarily direct to consumer. I mean, we work with vitamin shops, so we're in a couple locations, and I love them because they are so committed to health and wellness. But for the most part, hey, unless you live near a vitamin shop, just, you can jump over to our website and find us and learn more. That's awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. You're an absolute doll, and it was a pleasure to hear your story, and I can't wait to try your products.
Tracy, thank you. This has been amazing. And yes, they're on their way to you today. And I'm going to stick around for a few minutes here.
Okay. Wow, that was an awesome show. He is so adorable, and I can't wait to try his products. As soon as I do, you have to check out YouTube, because I'm going to do a video and do a taste test and let you know how they really are. So thank you so much for listening. If you like this show, please share it with a friend. Check out Shaun's website. The show notes page is highenergygirl.com/show. And you can find a link to this amazing products. And we'll see you on the next episode. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion, and I could be wrong.